I ended it so I could put it on the roll.
I think the big ones we're waiting on should be a Garrett, could be a Daria,
Okay.
and
Good morning. Happy Saturday.
Good morning.
Thank you everyone for hopping on here with us and doing our first homebuyer seminar. Super excited to get it rolling, and hopefully we're going to be able to get some good education out and just walk you through the home buying process from start to finish. So what we're going to do is I am going to mute everyone just to give you a quick heads up. So if you do have questions, just drop them in the chat box, and then we will definitely go ahead and we'll definitely come back and answer those towards the end of the class. So but yeah, we're going to go ahead and get started. This is Cody Devine. I'll let him introduce himself. I think everyone knows him, and then I'll introduce myself here shortly.
yes, hi. My name is Cody Devine. I think pretty much here, everyone here is family or girlfriend or wrestler. So pretty much know everyone here. And thank you guys for coming. Really appreciate it. Excited to really get this going and educate the people around me about just the home buying process 101, and excited to have some fun today.
My name is Scott Harshman. Cross Country Mortgage is who I work for. I've been doing the mortgage industry for over 7 years now. I've been in real estate since 2009. Crazy time to get in, if anybody remembers the crash at that point. So been in the real estate world going on 11 years now. So I've seen a lot in regards of guideline changes and what it takes to purchase a home. So super excited to educate you and give you some guidance. Just to give you a little background on myself, my wife and I married for 8 years now. We do have 4 kids, and we're very active and love sports and those types of things. So super excited to be able to share and educate and just share whatever I've learned throughout the home buying process and just go from there. So can everybody, somebody just give me a thumbs up if they can see the big blue screen? The Homebuyer Seminar is the name on it. Perfect. Thank you, Catherine. All right, let's get rolling. So see here. So Cody Devine and myself, we're the ones that are going to be helping you and walking you through all of this. So we just introduced ourselves. So there's really 6 steps that we have on buying a home. The first big step that we definitely want to make sure that we're going to be able to take advantage of is meeting with myself as a lender. And the reason for that is because we're going to do a few different things. First and foremost is we want to take a look and review your budget with you. 36% of Americans right now actually have a budget. So we want to help you create that budget if you haven't yet. If you do have it, kind of hone it in, make sure that we're going to find you the best purchase price and the monthly payment for the new home that you're wanting to purchase. We're going to look at your financial goals. We always want to help you make more, save more, and give more. I mean, that's our biggest mantra here. So one of the biggest things that we want to be able to do is make sure that you're going to be able to save 20% every single month. That way you're planning for retirement as well. But as you expand your portfolio, we want to see you get into home ownership. So we want to help make sure that we're going to have proper goals set for you, and you set proper goals for yourself as well around your financial budget. And then we're going to apply to get pre-approved. So there's going to be some things that we're going to talk about. Credit, assets, and income are the big 3 things that we're going to go over. There's going to be some initial documentation that we're going to collect for your approval. And then once we have the documents and we review all the different loan types, that's when we're going to issue a pre-approval letter. So when we're in that meeting, just to give you a heads up, there's a lot of different things that we're going to be going over. The documentation that we're going to need, I call it the power of 2s. This is your basic documents that we're going to need. Most recent 1-month pay stubs. If you're a W-2 employee, if you are self-employed, there's some different things that we're going to need. We'll go down that path if you are self-employed, but basic information such as last 2 years W-2s, last 2 years tax returns, all schedules on those. Sometimes people just give us just the first 2 pages. We need actually every single page on your tax returns. And then last 2 months of your asset information. I put on here some different examples of asset information, bank statements, retirement accounts, cash value life insurance. Those are all things that people have used in the past to be able to purchase a home. So just to give you a heads up, you can obtain a mortgage, or you can get a mortgage by using your 401k if you have it. If you have a cash value life insurance, you can also utilize it that way as well. All right, so after we meet, I think I went too far. Oh, no. All right, so after we meet, I'm going to say, hey, you're pre-approved, you're good to go. Go out there, find a home. Now, when this happens, I'm going to tell you there's some do's, we got our Facebook thumbs up, and there's some don'ts, we got our Facebook thumbs down, of what to do and what not to do while you're purchasing and searching for a home. So some things, obviously, we're going to complete your application. We're going to get that all squared away. We're going to respond to all questions quickly. Both us and you need to respond to questions quickly. That way we can make sure that we're going to get you the home quickly. Disclose all loan and credits. We've seen it where some people will get their credit pulled, just bought a car. We need to know about it so that we can make sure that we're going to calculate your debt to income ratio correctly. And then on top of that, ensure that we don't have any last minute surprises while the moving truck's packed up. And then this is a big one. Most people forget about their closing date to actually schedule for time off. So make sure when you do go into contract, Cody will go through the dates and deadlines with you. And then at that point, we want to make sure that you request time off from your employer for your closing date. Some don'ts: don't make any major purchases. What I mean by that, don't go out and buy a boat, finance a boat mainly, buy a new car, get a credit card, anything like that. Buy furniture. I swear to you, Home Depot, American Furniture Warehouse, they'll have the same sale next year. So be careful with those. Don't make any new purchases. Don't open any new lines of credit. Don't move any money around. We do have to trace your money of where it's coming from. It's part of the U.S. Patriot Act, and it's our fiduciary responsibility to do that for you and the state and the government. So with that being said, if we see money moving around, we're going to have to get all the information on it. So try not to do that. Same thing with untraceable money. Cash is hard for us to document. And then last but not least, don't make a career change. What I mean by that, since Cody is a wrestler, don't go from being a professional wrestler to a chef. They're two totally different types of industries. So there's really three main mortgage types. We have conventional, FHA, and VA. Those are the three main ones. The one we're going to talk about, though, is the down payment assistance as well. That is backed by VA, FHA, and conventional. The first one I want to go over is conventional. Minimum down payment on a conventional is 3%. Your minimum credit score is 620. I will tell you, you're going to get a better interest rate if you have a 680. So try to stay at a 680 or higher to go conventional. Max loan amount in all of the US is $510,400 for a 1-unit property. In Denver suburb areas, it's $575 because they have what is called a high balance conforming loan limit. So with that being said, it depends on what area you're in. But most of the, like Denver, Adams, Arapahoe counties, they're all $575. Max debt to income ratio ideally is 45%. In case by case scenarios, we can go up to 50%. And then gift funds, you can receive 100% of the gift fund. So if you have somebody that knows, likes, and trusts you, and they want to give you some money, they definitely can. And we can utilize that for you. The next one is an FHA mortgage. It is a government-backed mortgage. There is some pros and cons between FHA and conventional. We will definitely go through that when we meet one-on-one. But for the sakes of this class, just kind of going over the basics, minimum down payment is 3.5%. Minimum credit score is 580. We can go lower. I've gone down to 500 before. That did require 10% down. So if it's below 580, we do require 10% down. Max loan amount, it is going to vary county to county. I mean, Denver County is 575. If you go out to Weld County, it's like 404, I think it is. I mean, it's going to vary county to county. So it just depends on where we're going there. Max debt to income ratio is 57%. And then you can utilize 100% of gift funds on that as well. The next one is down payment assistance. This is a huge opportunity to get into a home. One of the best financial benefits about the US is obviously being able to purchase a home and having the opportunity of purchasing a home. So using down payment assistance, we see a lot of people take advantage of this. The big one that everyone uses here in Colorado is called CHFA, Colorado Housing and Finance Authority. You do have to take a first-time homebuyer class when you take advantage of the down payment assistance. Minimum credit score is a 620. The minimum required cash out of pocket is $1,000. Now, anytime you purchase a home, you have your down payment, closing costs, those types of things. But CHFA, if Cody can negotiate for you a seller concession, we can get you into a home for $1,000 out of pocket. We've done that a lot of times. So, it is possible out there. It just depends on the market. And I'll let Cody go down the market path here shortly. Max debt to income ratio, ideally 50%. Again, case by case, compensating factors, we can go higher. It just truly depends. It's better when we really do a case by case scenario type of situation. There is a max income restriction on it, which is 126. So if you make over 126 as an individual, or if it's a spouse situation applying together, and it's combined over 126, then we may have to look at other opportunities there. But if you make under 126, take advantage of the down payment assistance. VA, if you are a veteran, take advantage of homeownership. Your ROI is like 1,000,000,000%. It's zero down payment, 100% financing on a 30-year fix. No mortgage insurance, 580 credit score we can go down to. We can even go below it case by case. It truly is the best mortgage out there. So if you are a veteran, if you know a veteran and they don't own a home, tell them to buy a home. It's just one of the best investments that anybody can ever make, especially as a veteran. The requirement, though, you do have to occupy it as your primary residence. That's one of the biggest caveats.
All right, finding a home. So when I started taking these classes last year, I was able to get my license kind of right when quarantine started. Ever since then, I have not stopped learning about this process. It interests me a lot because it's actually easier to get in a home than I thought, or I think most of my friends think. So that's what I really want to cover today. So with your agent, determine your wants versus needs. Now, especially if you have a girlfriend, boyfriend, it's really important. I think it's a really fun activity to sit separately and write out 3 wants for a house and 3 needs for a house. So if there's a couple and a child, you need a 2-bedroom. You don't necessarily need a 3-bedroom or 4-bedroom. If you have 2 cars, you might need a 2-car garage. So it's things like that. If you want to sit down with your spouse and don't talk about it at all, don't deliberate it, just sit down and write down 3 wants in a house versus 3 needs in a house. And I think it's really funny to juxtapose the answers because you might be really curious to see what you get. Now, the reason we do wants versus needs is for something we call the 85% perfect home. Now, what this is just the thought of when we go looking for a house, we aren't looking for the diamond in the rough, the most perfect thing we've ever seen, our dream house. We're looking for 85% perfect. If you can look at a house and leave it and say, you know what, that was 85% perfect to the home I want to live in, it's really good to put an offer down. And we'll talk about that as well. So when we go and start looking at houses, we're going to be looking at a few things. We're going to be looking at cosmetic fixes or structural issues. Cosmetic fixes, something like a little hole in the wall or a doorknob that doesn't quite work right. That's something we can fix immediately. That's something we can just do. But something like a structural issue, you might have other things to consider when putting an offer down or asking for things from the other realtor. One thing I really want to cover today, and just say while we're at it, a lot of my friends don't know there's 2 types of agents in a transaction that directly communicate and advocate for the clients. There's a seller's agent and a buyer's agent. The buyer's agent represents the buyer to the best of their abilities. The seller's agent represents the seller to the best of their abilities, and is taking advantage of that agent and making sure the communication is there so we can get you in the right home and have a steady streamline of just communication. And yeah, we'll look at a lot of things: property taxes, neighborhood crime rates. If you have kids, maybe the schools, and depending on how you like to get around, major interstates, public transportation. So are you close to a light rail station? Things such as that. All right, making an offer. So here's how it works. Let's say you talk with Scott, you're pre-approved, you're ready to go, try to find that home. We go and we'll schedule showings, go see the house. Afterwards, we'll deliberate. We'll talk about it. Did you like it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Was it that 85% perfect home or better? If it is, we're going to put an offer down. Now, this is where you need an educated realtor. This is where you need someone who has good communication with also the seller's agent. So we have three things that happen when we put an offer down. For one, we have appraisal. When we go through appraisal, it's going to be, if you have a loan, this is where that comes in. You're going to appraise the house and you're going to see what it's worth. Now, if your loan doesn't quite cover that, you might have to bring more cash to the closing table. And now let's say you have a cash offer. If you have a cash offer, we might be able to do something such as waive the appraisal. And that's something we talk about when we negotiate and get into it. But if you want to waive the appraisal, it might give us more power and to try to get into a home. The next one is the inspection. Inspection is really important because, you know, it talks about, I like to cover it as things that you are for health and safety and concerns like that, such as radon. Is the roof leaking dramatically? Things like that that we can find out during inspection. So what's going to happen is you're going to put your offer in. Let's say they accept it. Once they accept it, yes, we'll do the appraisal and then the inspection. So when we get into the inspection, it's really important that we sit down, we read it, we see, you know, what's really important, what do we really want fixed, and what's not that important. Because if you ask for a lot, like you ask for every doorknob to be like working right, you ask for every hole in the wall to be filled in, you might find yourself losing a deal over the small things. We want to aim for the big things, you know? And then, let's see. There's one inspection, let me get nailed down. So the next big thing is fixtures versus personal property. This is a big thing I learned about during my classes. So personal property could be things that you could just unplug, take with you to the next house. Fixtures are something that is physically attached to the house. Fixtures are going to be really important if you already don't have a washer and dryer, if you don't already have a fridge, things such as that, or even a smaller thing like a microwave. You're going to want those things to come with you to your next home, or when you buy your first home, you might want those things to already be there. We take a look when we look at the house and we look under the listing that I'll be able to show you when we get to that point in the process, where it says what you will get when you buy the home. Let's say they're not offering a washer and dryer, so you want to offer them a little less money. Or let's say you want to, like any sort of thing to negotiate those little household items we all need to have. That's a great way for us to either put them in or take them out. It gives us a little power in negotiating when we're trying to find a home.
Now, one thing about personal property, I do see this every now and then with, like, let's say a pool table, for example, of negotiating that, or like a wine fridge. It's something that's not necessarily that you need or you must have to operate a home, right?
Yeah.
Pool tables, wine
Hot
fridges, those
tubs.
are the big ones, hot tubs. You can negotiate to have that inside of the contract. However, it does have to be stated that that gives no value to the home. So technically you're negotiating it to say, we're not going to increase the value of the home for any reason based off of this. So just to give you know, everyone a heads up on that, is that will be one thing that you'll look into, that we will have to have inside of the contract as well. All right, so once Cody has done his due diligence, he's taken a look at, you know, negotiating the best offer for you, finding the best home, figuring out what's the best closing date for you and your family. That's when you technically apply for the mortgage. What that truly means is that now we have a property address that we can move forward on. So there's going to be some things that we might need updated. We might need to update a few of your pay stubs, bank statements, minor things like that. Maybe repull credit, depending on how long it's taken. Your credit report does last for 120 days. So we may have to repull credit, do those types of things, those minor things. I will also talk to you about locking in your interest rate. And then at that point as well, we'll give you a really, really good idea. Normally we're within about $1,000 of what your cash to close is going to be, because Cody has negotiated things with your earnest money as well. I'll let Cody touch on earnest money real quick.
Yeah. So a big thing is, right, we got down payment and earnest money. Some people will mix those up, so I want to clarify that for you. So earnest money is going to be the money you put down when you put an offer on the house right away, right off the get-go, that says, hey, I'm a serious buyer. I want your home. Typically, it's what, 1% of the purchase?
Usually 1%.
Yeah, about 1% of the purchase is what your earnest money is going to be. Now, when you get to the closing table, that earnest money is going to be put towards your home. But that earnest money is separate from the down payment. The down payment is like the big, I mean, if you bought in a car, you know, it's the big start. Like, I'm ready. This is my home. But the earnest money is to show the sellers that you are serious about buying the home in itself. But those do come in later at closing costs. So you don't just hand them over $5,000. You never see it again. It's worth nothing. No, that goes towards the payment of the house and shows them that you are financially stable, you are serious and ready to go.
And one thing about the Colorado contract is it does protect the buyer more than it protects the seller. So that earnest money can be refundable if for some reason a date or deadline was not met or was not able to be completed, such as, let's say the inspection, there was something that came up in the inspection and Cody was unable to negotiate. You can back out and then Cody will get your earnest money back. So that's something else with the earnest money and the Colorado contract.
Yeah, so just like an anecdotal scenario, let's say during the inspection, they say the roofing is just trash, it needs to be replaced. So we say we want that replaced. They don't do it in time, or they don't do it, they're not willing to do it, what have you. We might want to back out of that contract and go start looking at other homes. If that's the case, we get our earnest money back. We're protected as well.
All right, step 5. So at step, once the disclosures are signed and we have those back from you, the interest rate's locked through your close date. We have all the figures put together. We have all your documentation. At that point, we then order your appraisal. We do charge for the appraisal up front. You'll pay for that. We'll schedule the appraisal the day after your inspection resolution deadline. The reason for that is because we don't want to have an appraisal done while Cody's still negotiating on your behalf if there's something that comes up on the inspection. We don't want to put all the cards on the table for that listing agent and the seller. We want to hold as many cards in our hand as we possibly can. So the appraisal, there is a difference between an appraisal and an inspection. An inspection is going to make sure that the home is functional. And what I mean by that is they're going to say, hey, the windows, they're not cracked, or there's handrails around that are protected on stairs. You know, the deck, it's not a warped deck. They're going to take a look at the actual home itself to make sure that it is a true livable type home. The appraisal, what they're doing is they're going to take a look at homes that are in the area that have sold within usually the last 12 months that are like homes of the one that you're looking to purchase. And then what they're going to do is they're going to compare them against each other. And then that's how we make sure that we're going to get you the best possible loan. And we're going to protect you to make sure that it does appraise for that amount. So there's a few things in the appraisal that we'll get squared away for you. And we'll explain all of that and you get a copy of it. And then we'll go through the whole thing with you and just give you the ins and outs of it. Now, I will tell you, an appraisal is an opinion of value. As much as they can do is any stats on it as they possibly can, it still is an opinion of value according to that specific appraisal or appraiser. Knocking on wood, I have not seen a whole lot of appraisals come in low. As of late, we're in a very aggressive market where agents are doing a great job of listing properties the right way. They're not overlisting them, and you know the market's been very sustainable and still growing. Now, the next step is going into the underwriting process. So what the underwriter is going to do is we're going to cross T's and dot I's. So they're going to verify everything that I've already done for you with the income, the assets, the credit, those types of things. And they're going to say, hey, you're good to go. We're going to get an underwriting approval back within 48 hours. Most of the time, I'll be honest with you, we see where we're going to need something. It could be something as simple as clarification on bonus income. It could be something that's more in depth of, you know, there was an NSF on your bank statement and we need an explanation as far as what happened to it. For those of you that don't know what an NSF is, you overdrew your bank account. It happens, we're human. If you're anything like myself, I sweep my account and the next thing you know, I charge something, I'm like, oh crap, I forgot. So it does happen, right? But with that being said, we'll get that documentation back. We'll go back in for final underwrite, and that's when we'll get our clear to close. There's no better word or no better phrase out there than clear to close. Cody loves it. You'll love it as a home buyer. I love it as a mortgage lender because then we're done with the mortgage process. At that point, we're just looking to balance figures and get to the closing. So what our processor will do is we'll update everyone, and then we'll coordinate with Cody and the sellers and the listing agent to get you a date and time. For closing, by the way.
So closing, yes, we just touched on it a little bit. So just to give you a time frame of what all this looks like. So you call me, you say, I am interested in buying a home, maybe right now, or maybe 6 months from now, maybe a year from now. I tell you immediately, contact Scott. Scott's going to help you build your credit, get on a budget, all that. It might take a few days, it might take a few months. It's really up to you, and depending on where you are in the process. Next, what's going to happen is we're going to look for a home. That could take also anywhere between, especially in this market, 1 month to 3 months, maybe more. It's good to get ahead of that process and have good communication with your lender and your realtor to make sure you're set and ready to go. Don't just do what we call the fire drill, where one day you want a home and you call me and you want it all done, and it's just stressful for you. It's stressful for everybody. It's good to have that line of communication. Now, once you put an offer in and it gets accepted, you are what you call under contract. What that means is that's when we go through it. That's when we go through the inspection, the loan deadlines, the appraisal, the underwriting, all of that. Now, it's kind of hard to put just a spot on average, but you could say about a month. If you have to do all those steps, it takes about a month. If you have to, or if you get to waive some steps and not do all of them, maybe 3 weeks or 2 weeks if you're really feeling it and you're crazy. But we can also do things where if you want to take the process slow once you're under contract, we can do a 45-day close. We have that power in our offer to talk about what we want to do to get you in that home. So yes, once we get to the closing table, 2 weeks to 45 days later, we bring a photo ID, possibly 2 forms of identification, bring all the final documents, we sign some papers, we give you the keys, and you go to your new home. And it's pretty much as simple as that. The best thing you can do is just have an open line of communication with both Scott and me, with both your lender and your real estate agent, to assure you're getting the best deal, to assure you're not lost in the process, and get you in to that next home or your first home.
And there's no better feeling than getting those keys. You will get writer's cramp. So I'll tell you right now, just do your wrist exercises. I'm just totally joking.
And just one more thing to touch on before we get to the Q&A is there is a final walkthrough. Now, what that is going to be is when the process is almost done, we're about to close. What we're going to do is we're going to take one walkthrough through the home together one more time, make sure every need has been met, whether it be fixing those final things on the plumbing or really what have you. Whatever we want to make sure that the contract has been properly executed before we move you into your new home. That's pretty much it. Yep. I mean, just to touch real quick before we get to Q&A, we could talk about the market. Now, another good reason it's really good to have a good communication with all of us is this market is not the easiest for buyers right now. It's the funnest, but it's not the easiest. So the reason I say that is I read something that said in September, Denver was one of the hardest cities in the country to get under contract in. And that doesn't mean that it's going to be just hard and not fun for us. Maybe it just means we get to see more cool houses. But basically what's happening is the inventory is a little low and the buyers are a little high. It's a seller's market, is what we call that, if you've heard that term before. There's just not a lot of houses and there's a lot of people looking. So it's being able to have that realtor that can negotiate for you, being able to have that lender who's there for you and communicates with you and is by your side every step of the way. It's good to have that, so that way we can try to get you into your next home. If we see that 85% perfect, we can attack, we can go, and we can make it happen.
And I'm a huge numbers nerd, and like Cody's saying, right now the market is difficult. I'll be the first to admit it. I see it all the time. We work with, on average right now, we're helping about 150 plus families a year with buying and refinancing their homes. So, we see it. It is a tough market, but I do want to give you some reassurance around purchasing a home. And this is the power of the housing market in the US. There's 2 places that you can really make a ton of money and grow your net worth and your wealth. One of them is real estate. The other one is the stock market. Obviously, we're going to see ebbs and flows in all of them. I can go through the entire history of everything. Even in the greatest recessions or the depressions or recessions or whatever it may be, I went back and researched the last 6 recessions. There was one of them that actually saw a decrease in home values. And it was 2008, 2009. The reason for that is because there was poor lending practices. Be the first to admit it. So what we're looking at now is how can we truly show you how to increase your net worth? So let's look at 300,000, and nobody make fun of my chicken scratch because it's pretty bad, right? So 300,000, if you have a 5% down payment requirement, what is that? 15,000, right? So you'll need 15,000 out of pocket for your down payment. Now, one of the things that I'll tell you is, Cody, right now, what do you think is the average appreciation in Colorado?
6% per year.
Let's say average appreciation across the US.
Probably less.
Most likely. What should we use? 4%?
4%?
Let's be conservative, 4%. Yeah. So if we have 4% of 300,000, that's how much? 12,000 a year?
Mm-hmm.
So 12,000 a year is how much you'll earn on a yearly basis. Now, if we multiply that by 5, what does that equal? 60,000. Good, thank you. So $60,000 is how much you'll have in your equity in 5 years. Most families move within 2 to 7 years. The reason why I want to show you this is because if your initial investment is 15,000, after 5 years, you'll now have 60,000. What is your net appreciation? Or what is your net right there? 45,000?
Yep.
So you have $45,000 that you made just by owning a home and purchasing a home. So this is the power of home ownership that I want to show and make sure that you're going to be able to get into the best possible situation moving forward. And there's nothing better than paying your own mortgage payment as opposed to somebody else's. No matter what, if you're renting, you're paying somebody's mortgage. Or you're paying a mortgage, I guess I should say. All right, Q&A. I'm going to unmute everyone. If I can figure this out. All right, I'm going to unmute everyone. Who has a question that we can help with? If nobody has questions, start giving me some thumbs up.
There's a few in the chat box for you guys.
Oh, perfect. All right, Hannah and Josh, for debt to income ratio, are student loans included in that debt? Good question. So yes, they will be. We use 1% of the value or the payment that shows up on the credit report. Right now with COVID, a lot of student loans have been deferred. So easy math, let's say you have a $10,000 student loan. We use $100 against you on your debt to income ratio. For CHFA loans, is 126,000 income limit gross or net? Another good question. It is considered gross. It is not net. We do look at some different opportunities there for you. There's been situations where we've looked at how can we make it the best option for you. So again, it's case by case scenario. How long would you say that the whole process of buying a home from start to finish is in the current Denver market? Another great question. I mean, I think average is 30. Our average turn times right now is 21 days on purchases. I will tell you, doing it much faster than 21 days right now is pretty difficult. The reason for that is because of think of I-25 pre-COVID and all the people that are getting on I-25 during rush hour and getting off. It's a stop and go all the way through. The analogy that I want to portray on that is there's $13 trillion in mortgages across the entire United States. Right now, there's roughly 5 trillion that are trying to refinance, and there's probably another 2 to 3 trillion that are trying to purchase and sell. On a normal year, we see about 2 to 3 trillion. So it's pretty hectic right now. So closing much faster than 21 days, I would not see that. I don't think that's too possible. What is the biggest advice you have for younger couples looking to buy their first home? There's two things that I'm going to say on that. One, be okay on not having a perfect home. There's things that you can fix up in there. And when I say that, like my wife and I, the first house that we bought, I'll be the first to tell you it was a dog. Like I was even embarrassed sometimes to invite my own mom over. But I will tell you, we ended up making a ton of money off of it. So we ended up having that money and being able to move up into a nicer home, nicer neighborhood, better schools for our kids. So I mean, that's the first thing that I would say. And the other thing is home ownership. It can feel scary, but I promise you, at some point, you're going to have to pay. You have to pay for shelter. So at the end of the day, why not pay and grow your own net worth as opposed to somebody else's? Great questions.
What is the, oh, yep. Do you have any idea when the market will be better for buyers? 1 to 5 years more?
You want to take that one?
It's how you say subjective. It could be. So the big thing is everyone always asks like, oh, does this mean we're in a bubble? Well, it's not that, and the statistics prove we're not in a bubble. It doesn't mean we're due for a crash or anything dramatic to happen. It's just like it really just depends, right? I mean,
It does depend. And I mean, one of the things that I'll tell you is, let's look at something real quick, like Econ 101, supply and demand, right? So right now in Denver, I haven't looked up these numbers in the last couple of years, but I do know that 2 or 3 years ago, we were netting about 100,000 people in Denver alone. Well, right now, last I saw, there was about 9,000 homes on the market. For us to be an average market, we need 32,000 homes to be listed. That means we're not a buyer's market or a seller's market,
Don't ask this.
which is good news. I mean, in all actuality, you buy a house. I mean, since COVID started, a lot of people were seeing 1% appreciation each month.
yep.
So at the end of the day, like, is this market going to be difficult? I honestly do think so. I think as we see more states such as California and New York get these crazy tax bills, people are exiting, mass exodus on those big states, and they're coming to states such as beautiful Colorado. We've been honored to live here our entire lives. I'm a native myself, but you're a native as well, right?
Yep.
So we're both natives to Colorado. I personally feel it's the best state around the United States, and we have people that are trying to take advantage of it. I do like it when they come here when the weather is really crappy, because then they don't want to come back too often. So
Yeah, the big thing is, yeah, it's hard. It's hard to get in a home right now, but home, like, that doesn't mean impossible. It just means, like, rather than you going to see the very first home, loving it and buying it and getting it under contract, you might have to see a few homes. Like, when we say hard, we don't mean it's going to take you years or really even a lot of months. It's just a little more difficult. You might have to throw a little more money down by having that appreciation and that equity. I mean, yeah, it's hard to be a buyer, but it's great to be a seller. And once you're done being a buyer, you're a seller. So that's the bottom line for that.
Yep. Garrett asked a great question as well. Oh wait, I'm sorry, Julian. Julian, if you were looking to buy into a house next June, when would you recommend to start the application process? Great question. I honestly feel that 90% of credit reports have some sort of an inaccuracy on it. So I think it's always a good idea to start that process early rather than later. Ideally, I like to see 6 to 12 months before you're thinking about purchasing. And the reason for that is because there's so many different things that go into the lending side of things. Remember how I said that 2008, during that recession, we saw actual decrease in home values? Well, the reason for that is because it was not sound lending. We are now required to do certain things to make it more sound lending. It benefits you, it benefits our housing market, and it truly benefits our economy. So I honestly recommend about 6 to 12 months in advance, start looking and start applying for a mortgage. And something else that I didn't think about. So let's say that you close on your home today. Today's October 24th, 23rd, yep. 24th. Yeah, October 24th. You close today, which you can't close on a Saturday, by the way. So let's say you closed yesterday on October 23rd. You will skip November. December 1 will be your first mortgage payment. So when I'm working my way backwards with a lot of people in regards to rentals, if it costs a ton of money to break your lease, then what we'll do is, let's say June is when your lease is up. Well, we want you in your house, ideally, be end of May to beginning of June, with your lease expiring towards the end of June. That way you have ample amount of time to move. You're probably going to want to paint. I promise you, when you move into that house, you're not going to want to paint. It just is what it is. So, you know, as you prepare for it, just know that you have that 1 month leeway time. And we'll plan accordingly so that you don't have a mortgage payment and a rental payment all in the same month. We'd like to see it at least skip for you. Let's see here. Garrett, is there any difference between buying a home versus an apartment or something smaller in terms of supply or amount of places to purchase? Maybe a silly question. No, it's not a silly question at all. I think I understand your question. Are you talking in regards to condos, townhomes versus a single family residence?
Yeah, that's another thing that I've learned as well. Apartments are things you rent, condos are things you buy, and whoever bought the condos can rent to you. So condos and apartments are like the same structure, but they're different entities.
Yeah, I think what he wants to know is, is the value still going to be there? Is that right, Garrett? Am I understanding that right? Is the value going to be in a condo and a townhome versus like a single family or vice versa? Is there more supply in those types of homes? Hashtag remix. I think that's your question, Garrett. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, did you hear me? I can't.
Yep.
I did hear you, and then you went mute again. Let me unmute you.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah,
Can you hear me now? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think you captured it. I'm just curious if, if it's a bit easier to buy an apartment right now, in like the Denver area. And then also, yeah, I guess I was curious about like the value and like pros and cons of buying an apartment over like a single family home, like you were saying.
Yeah, I think the condos.
Yeah, so I think that's a great question. So, do you want to take it or do you want me to?
I can touch on it and you can.
All right, cool.
So, I mean, the benefits of owning condos, you don't have to like take care of the yard or take care of those big like structures that you have to make sure the neighborhood's good on. It doesn't really matter. Like appreciation is on like what you own. So if you own a condo or a townhome or an apartment, there's going to be appreciation regardless. I mean, especially downtown, condos are selling for great prices right now.
Yeah, and like properties, right? So
Yeah.
Our appraisal is gonna show like properties. So if you're in a single family ranch style home, they're only looking for single family ranch style homes in that area. Same thing with condos. If you're in a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom condo, they're looking at that value. What I will tell you, it was either last year or the year before, and I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank on this one, but on the date anyways, but what they ended up doing is they lacks the condo builder requirements and laws. So what we saw the last 2 years really in the attached, I'm going to call condos and townhomes attached. What we saw is that we actually saw more appreciation in those because they were less expensive. Now, one of the things to look at when you get into a condo and townhome, they're great for future potential rentals, but I will tell you, HOAs are not regulated, which at some point you may start seeing HOA requirements go up and HOA payments go up. So some of the things that the HOA will cover: water, utilities, certain utilities like sewage and water, and then trash. They'll cover the insurance on the exterior of the unit itself. And then you'll need what is called an HO6 policy. It's studs in on a condo and townhome and on most of those. The biggest difference between a condo versus a townhome, if you're looking at them, the easiest way to figure it out is if you're looking at the legal description. It'll truly state condo in the legal description on that specific property. A townhome will have a lot in a block usually. Normally with a townhome, you own the land that you're on. A condo, you do not own the land, you just own the actual physical structure itself. So I think to answer your question, to each their own is what I will tell you of, do I want a condo or do I want a single family residence? I will tell you, my wife and I have a condo as a rental, and we like it because we have the HOA that takes care of the exterior of the property. So we don't have to have that as an expense as landlords. So, just to kind of think, if you're thinking long-term down the road of, hey, I want to have 10 rental properties down the road, well, it may not be a bad idea if you're single or, young family getting into a condo or townhome and going from there.
Yeah.
So, Julian, let's see here.
I think there's more questions upwards too.
How long would you say is the whole process? We covered that one. What's the biggest advice you give younger couples looking to buy their first home? We did?
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, right here. That's where the next one started.
What is, I'm sorry, what is NACA? I don't know what that is. NACA?
I'm not 100% sure.
James, what is NACA? Do you know by chance? Yeah, still.
We can come back to that one too. Go to Julian's question.
Here, can you guys hear me now?
Oh, there
yep.
you are.
Awesome. So the NACA mortgage is a mortgage assistance program across the North America. It's North America Community Assistance Program, something like that. A lot of people use it in combination with the FHA mortgage to get multifamily income properties, and that's what I'm looking into doing. And so I was trying to pick your brain on that, but if you're not familiar with it, it's okay.
You know, I'm not familiar with it. I'll be completely transparent. I can do some research for you, and then
No problem. Yeah,
and then reach out to you about it. I have no
I would love
problem.
that.
So perfect. Sorry, I've never heard of that one before. So
It's A-okay. I only learned about it a couple months ago myself.
oh, cool. All right. I think my girlfriend and I would love to talk with you both about our specific situation. All right, cool, Julian. Thank you. What's the biggest hurdle to overcome as a new buyer, both in the post-pandemic market and a regular market? That's a great question.
That's
I
a
love
good
that
question.
one.
Yeah. Biggest hurdle to overcome as a new buyer. I find the newest or like the hardest hurdle for me to overcome with my buyer right now is just a limited inventory. Like it truly is like we just put an offer on a house with my client last weekend and we lost out on a great offer. I mean, we offered a little bit extra. We did a lot of strategies. I had a really good open line of communication with the realtor. It's just difficult. I mean, even so much so as face-to-face meetings with the realtor, like you can't do it right now. Even so much so as being able to like shake the hand of the person you're trying to buy their home from. Like you can't do it right now. And I think this is a person's business. And right now we're lacking the person's communication. You can't see them face-to-face. And that's really where the success of communication comes from. You can call them, text them, email them all day, but like, honestly, I think the hardest part for me is just not being able to talk to them face to face. In terms of not in the market, what would you say?
Not in a regular market.
Yeah,
So I think, I mean, honestly, I've seen this since really 2013. 2014, sorry. So probably towards the end of 2014 is when we really started seeing the housing market in Denver and really the US start taking off on a like a catapult type scenario. So again, I'm going to belly back off of what Cody said. I think the market with the lack of inventory is pretty difficult right now. I think that's probably the most frustrating piece of it. Anytime that you see some sort of business like this, then you start getting different types of people that handle their business different ways to kind of, further explain what Cody's saying, or I think he's saying maybe. I'll say it for myself anyway, but there's a lot of times I'll call somebody and I don't get a call back. So that is pretty difficult in this market right now. So I would say probably those two things is just getting that open line of communication with everybody that's involved in the transaction. And then last but not least is the inventory. People are getting greedy. Sellers think that their homes are worth way too much, and buyers don't want to pay as much as they're wanting to sell the home for. So it's kind of a balancing act right now for sure.
Yeah, I mean, last weekend we did that when we were trying to get a home. We had to compete with 6 other offers, and like I guess you haven't really heard about that before. So like, if you're really lucky, you compete with no offers. That doesn't really happen in this market. You're kind of competing with a bunch of offers. It's kind of a bidding war, and that makes it difficult on the buyer side.
Julian, great question. Do you have his email by chance?
Yeah.
Cool.
So what happens is once we have that conversation, we talk to Scott, we get pre-approved, we know the budget of houses we're looking at. I set you up on my system, and you get emails every single morning stating the house is on the market in your budget, or like it updates every day. So it might be a new one the next day or a new one the next day. It updates you and sends you them every single day. So you can take a look. We'll set you up on an auto email and you'll get to look at it whenever you want. So just let me know and talk to Scott and I. And once we get your budget going, that's when we'll be able to help you start looking at that and get you on that auto email so you can see them every day.
If you're wanting to just start browsing, the browsing process, Redfin, Realtor.com, Zillow, those are the big three tycoons right now in the industry. I would suggest do not ever put your contact information in there. What happens is mortgage lenders and real estate agents actually buy the information when it's input in there. So your phone will start ringing off the hook. So have a trusted communication with Cody, but I would advise you not to put your contact in any of those websites, because then your phone will not stop ringing. I can promise you that. And then my favorite website, this syncs directly with what Cody is going to get you set up on anyway, is called RE Colorado, realestatecolorado.com. Honestly, it's going to give you the most accurate information. You don't have to input any contact information. And it's just nice to be able to go on there and kind of browse of what's out there. So
Yeah.
I know all of them will have an app that you can download. So it just depends on what you're looking to do. But like what Cody's saying, it's good to meet with him and kind of get an idea of your wants versus needs. Because then he'll be able to hone in really of saying, hey, we need this little demographic because that's our kid's school, as opposed to looking in things from, Littleton all the way up to Fort Collins.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And just to kind of like clarify more on what RE Colorado is. So I work for Your Castle. RE Colorado is something that it's the most used thing that every real estate agent uses in the state, that has listings from every single company into it. It's the entire market of like homes.
Yeah. So I don't see any other questions. Does anybody have anything else? We definitely appreciate you guys coming. Obviously we want to do, great things, and we want to make sure we're taking care of people in the future as well. So we do have a QR code and a website for a survey. I just shared my screen again with you. If you guys can hop on there, and gals, I guess I should say, hop on there and give us some feedback. Was it good? Was there more things that you wanted us to get out of the class? This was, like we said, it was a pretty surface level class. So, if we need to do like I'm going to call it a 201, 301, and 401, we definitely can, of getting into that, that home buyer situation and go through the whole education piece of it. I think it's important because, we don't learn this in schools, and, that I think that's honestly why 36% of people actually have a, 36% of people actually have a, budget. So
Yeah.
in the US, because you just don't know about it. So
Yeah, and the biggest reason I wanted to put this class on is just so no one ever feels like they're dragged through the home buying process. That way you feel like our communication to you is transparent, and that way you feel like you have power and knowledge going through the process of buying a home, because it is stressful.
definitely. And I think towards the end of the survey as well, if you know of anybody else that would benefit from these classes, please share their contact information with us so that we could, get that out to them as well. So we appreciate everyone coming. We're going to mute ourselves. So if there's any other questions, feel free and give us put them in the chat box, or just shout at us, and we'll be happy to answer those for you.
Yes, thank you guys for coming today. I appreciate it. I hope you learned something, and I'm super excited to get this real estate thing up and rolling. So thank you. I'll hear from y'all soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. That was a great presentation.
Thank you.
It's pretty much good to go.